It's my great pleasure this afternoon, first of all, to offer congratulations to you. To all of you graduates in particular, and to some of you who are coming back again to graduate again. There's a time you will not forget, and I urge you not to forget it. You may forget the speaker of today, but you'll not forget this event. I can still remember my own graduation, which was almost exactly 60 years ago. My first acquaintance with your college was in May of 2009, when Dr. Keith Cassidy asked me to come to the Redemptive Sisters at Port Erie to check out their library. And it was a month, I think, before he became the president. And I've had a great time with him since then. Books have always been an obsession of mine. And this is why I have always had to keep in mind, and you should too, Ecclesiastes 12:12, where there is a passage which says, of the making of books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. Of many books, indeed, there is no end. In fact, the Latin word for book, liber, may, in fact, be best defined as chapter. For Latin writers, books go on and on. The great writer Marcus Varro, for example, is said to have written 600 such books. The study of the Latin language alone is listed as having 25, and St. Augustine, to which I spent a little time this afternoon, his famous work, The Confessions, is somewhat shorter. It's only 13 books. Unfortunately, most people only read the first 8, or 9 at the most, I'm afraid. I'll recommend that you read the rest carefully. Books, then, as many of you know, go on and on. And perhaps some of you may be happily feeling today that this marks an end. Of the time when you leave books aside for a time. Books, it is good to remember that St. Augustine, just like us today, knew that of their making there is no end, and that much study is a weariness of the flesh. Interestingly enough, however, in his Confessions, Augustine makes little mention of the word book. I mean, it's there to tell him you're in the 13th one now. He moves very quickly to use the word verba, or words, to designate his obsession with reading. A great problem for many of us, particularly those students, and I think particularly for your professors. You probably know from the beginning of it that they've never left aside books. Augustine, at the beginning of his Confessions, uses the word verba a number of times to trace the ways in which, in his earlier days, words proved a great problem for him, leading him away from those matters which really confined his life. And words can do this for us as well. What happened was that St. Augustine grew to be interested in the sound of words, in their artistry alone, and not in what their beauty led him towards. His reading of Virgil should have led him toward greater beauty. I blame not the words, he says, which of themselves are like vessels choice and precious. His problem was that he enjoyed words for themselves and not for what they pointed to. I'm not certain how many of you here enjoy Virgil anymore. After your Latin course, I'm sorry for the Latin professor here, but anyway. I'm sure that many of you do, of course. And many of you enjoy the beauty of Virgil, or whatever studies you had here. The beauty of Virgil, are not, Augustine insists, to be related on the words of Virgil, are not, he insists, to be focused on for themselves alone. If they are, they lead to destruction. that destruction can grow to be a lack of reading. The internet, for example, is a great help to our study, but it often leads one to only read a little at a time. I remember once in a communion group in Waterloo, I mentioned a book by Henri Lubac and was told by a number of people, "I've read it." Then I discovered that they'd read only a short passage of it from the internet. Against reading only a single part of the work, Augustine tells us that words should take us further, from words into the Word. In the 10th book of his Confessions, for example, he uses Virgil's words. And in it he interprets that his own concerns have reached far beyond Virgil's, and even, in a way, his own words. The details of this argument of mine take us far away from the point today, and far beyond my 10 minutes I have here. But suffice it to say, at this point we've reached a new point in Augustine's reading of Virgil, or of authors. It is no longer that we avoid them, but rather that we are asked to move on from them to true beauty. The point of Augustine's book, in fact, is focused on repetition. Going back once more after we have completed it, and learning more and more. As you all know, Augustine's title of the book is Confessiones, which means, of course, confessions of faith. And confessions point us to Augustine's act of faith. And thus, when we come to the end of his confessions, we are once again directed to the beginning. Let it be begged of thee, sought in thee, knocked at for thee. So shall it be received, so shall it be found, so shall it be opened. But to what shall it be opened? To new depths. We are directed to read the piece over again, to open it again, to look back to the beginning in which we find a new opening with the well-known words, "Great art thou, O Lord, and greatly to be praised. Great is thy power and thy wisdom infinite." This is the direction given to all of us today, perhaps. We are not today told that we are graduating from something, but rather to something. We are to take what we have learned earlier and reuse it, rediscovering it in dramatically new ways, in a new world, for the greater glory of God.